All right. Hey, hi, everybody. I'm here with two of my really good friends, Ben Kidder, who is the pastor of the River in Minong, Wisconsin. Can you wave at us, Ben? This is Ben. Yep. And then this is Dave Hansen. Dave is from Lakeview Community Church in Lakeview, Michigan. And both of these guys are church planters in small communities. So, like Lakeview, Michigan, what's the population of Lakeview?
Lakeview population 1,000.
Wow, wow, 1,000. And Ben, what about you at Minong, Wisconsin? What's the population there?
Probably 586.
Well, probably 580. So like what? Like one family moves away, and there's a huge plummet in population
Man,
line. And now, Ben, you've been at the river for how long?
13 and a half years.
Wow, that's a long time now. I can't believe it's been that long. Oh my goodness. And
I
Dave,
know.
what about you?
We planted Lakeview Community Church in 2010, January
Wow.
2010.
Wow, that's exciting. So 10 years and you got now, Dave, was yours a did you just kind of just go in there like by yourself or anything, or was there another church that helped daughter your church?
We
Or
actually had two churches that were involved. I was a youth pastor at one church in a neighboring community, and we wanted to reach into Lakeview. And then we partnered with another church in our district, Central Montcalm Community Church. And so one church where I was a youth pastor sent my family and four others into town to plant. And then Central Montcalm Wainato was the pastor at the time. He was our coach, and he had planted 5 or 6 churches, and he was the one that gave us direction and gave us some idea of what we were doing.
he's got church planting in his DNA. Even his email, what is it? Otto the church planter.
Exactly.
Out here in South Carolina now, I'm planting like crazy again. He's like Johnny Appleseed, planting churches. And Ben, we partnered together from Hayward to help send a crew up that way, and it's just been so exciting to watch how God has been doing that at Minong. And you guys are actually planting another, like a daughter congregation now, isn't that right? Or at least a satellite campus.
Absolutely.
Yeah, was to tell us
So
about.
we used a similar model to how we were planted, and we started a worship service up in Solon Springs, and we're still trying to decide the kind of relationship we're going to have with that group. I think we'll stay organically connected because resource-wise and gift mix-wise, 2 horses can pull a heavier load.
Oh yeah.
So definitely used a core of people that we had developed over time to take charge on that.
Yeah. So now, did you guys imagine when you were, say, like the age of my students, college age, that you would be planting a church in a rural community?
I personally never thought I would plant a church. I never thought that was something that God had called me to until He did. And I didn't planted my first church when I was 40. So I'm not your average normal church planter. I'm a little behind the times, but God's good. So
Now, you're a
so
South Carolina guy, right?
that,
You came from South Carolina. Is that right?
I'm from Michigan. I'm from
Okay.
like 20 miles.
So you went to
here.
SWU.
I did. I'm a graduate of Southern Wesleyan.
Yeah.
And so my wife.
And then you went into youth ministry for a while, and then to this church plant just sort of developed and came to you, and you said, I got to do this.
Yeah. I did everything backwards. I started out as a solo pastor for 2 pastorates. Then I became a youth pastor, and then I planted a church. I think I'm not sure if I do things in the right order, but
That's pretty cool. How about you, Ben? What was your pathway to church planting?
It was a resistant one. It was a slow one. I started out pastoring a rural church, but it was an old established church, and I discovered that I'm really not a pastor. They needed a shepherd, and that's just not my skill set. So I was kind of trying to find a way out of ministry, and you and I had talked. I'd come back home for a funeral, and got into church planting. Never thought I'd be a church planter because I'm not a salesman, and I always thought church planters were just Jesus salesmen. And discovered, though, in this process that I no wonder I was a terrible pastor, because really I'm more of a church planter, and it has been phenomenal experience. I'd never want to go back to try to just be a pastor.
I remember the day you came into my office, and when I saw you, I knew you were the guy. I just knew it. I said, the anointing was there. And
God told you long before he told me that. It took me about 3 months to wrestle through that call.
He came into it kicking and screaming, Dave. He just came into it kicking and screaming, but it was a good thing. It's exciting. So let me ask you this. When people think about church planting, they don't normally think of a small community. They tend to think of like the suburbs or something like that. So why should anybody even consider the idea of planting in a small community? Like, what are the advantages of doing that? I mean, like, with there's so few people, like 500 in Minong, like you say, well, why couldn't I just plant in, like Buffalo or Atlanta or something like that, where there's a lot more fish in the pond? What would you say to somebody that made that argument? Either one of you guys can chime in on that, or both. I want to hear from both of you.
Well, first I'd say is that rural lost people matter to God as well. The rural community I'm in, 69% of the people in the community have no religious affiliation. And Jesus loves them. And we've been called to the harvest field, and the harvest field includes rural areas, rural churches. And so that's a big call if you are interested in reaching people for Jesus. And some of the advantages is the communities, you can get to know a lot of people really fast. And you can love on a lot of people really fast and get to know them. One of the disadvantages is people get to know you really fast. And if you're not authentic and you're not really caring, they'll know it and they'll be able to sniff it out really fast.
So you got to be real. Yeah, you got to be real.
You have to be authentic.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
I would echo what Dave has said. There's a real need in a lot of our rural communities. So in our school district, our entire school district, probably 425 square miles, and I say this very carefully, but in my estimation, there's only 2 churches where you're going to hear the gospel. Ours and another church that's very liturgical. So the need is desperate. I think of it like if I told you there was gold in our river, you wouldn't care where it was. You'd just be glad to get the gold out. I can go gold mine and have to push other miners out of the way, or I can go to an untapped stream, an unmined stream. The people are gifted. They're hungry. I'm sure people are that way everywhere, but we come in kind of like, and this is not every scenario, but it's kind of like we're the only restaurant in town. It's not a bad place to be. I know that sounds kind of weird.
Yeah, I noticed that when I moved from up north, and Hayward was a thriving metropolis compared to where you guys were. Like Hayward had 2,000 people, so but anyway, and then when I came down here, I noticed last year at Easter time, everybody was competing to try to come up with the coolest, biggest, whatever Easter thing for the kids or whatever. But there were so many churches doing that it's just like it was really hard for people to know who you even are or whatever. But I can see that, like, in both of your churches, the people in your community, they know about your church, don't they? Would you say pretty much like the people in Lakeview know about Lakeview Community Church? And I'm guessing that the people who live in Minong, they all know about the river. Would that be true?
Yes, that's definitely true. When we planted, it was very intentional. We put community in our church name because we wanted that to be central and that we would be involved in the community and we'd be blessing and loving on the community. And so I'd say, yeah, we do a lot of things in the community. It's strange this year that we're not out doing our Easter egg hunt that we do at the school, at the high school. And all of just really involved in different ways in the community. So yes, they know who we are.
Yeah. How about you, Ben?
Relational, yeah, we're well known. Sometimes we're on the wrong side of the rumor mill, but such is life. Relational currency is so huge still in our rural culture that like because you talk about churches competing with one another and the marketing, and you got to have a lot of glossy glitz, and we've been able to avoid the production mindset of ministry, and help zero in on that relational aspect, both with God and with each other.
You know, I have seen that with my students, that they really value just deep down genuine relationship, and not glitzy, put on a show kind of stuff. You know, I mean, like if it seems plastic, if it seems fake, they can sniff through that. So it seems to me that ministering in a small community really taps into the rising generation of future ministers, because they long for this. They long for this, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So what would you say are some unique challenges to serving in a small community? I know, Dave, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but like as you look back on your years now of serving in a small place, what are some of the things that maybe would be different than if you were in Atlanta trying to plant a church?
Well, I know for sure is in our small community, it took a little while to gain the trust of people. So when we started out in the middle school, and the guy that was the head of the buildings and grounds, we found out that he was in control of everything. We got permission from superintendent, permission from the principal. Everything's going smooth. We had the cafeteria, we had the gymnasium, and the building and ground guy said, "No, you can't use my gym." And he overruled the superintendent and the principal of the middle school. And so we had to earn his trust. And the way we did that wasn't with words or things like that, is we had to take good care of his building. So it was our goal every time we finished that the room we used would be better than when we came in. And that earned his respect. And so that type of thing is, I think, can be unique to a smaller area. I mean, everybody needs to gain trust, but everybody knows everybody in a small community. And so if you can start building trust with one person, it's going to ripple effect through the entire community. And so that's really important in being so that authentic relationship and building those trusts. And for us, it helped that part of the families that came in with us to plant the church actually lived in Lakeview. So we had some early buy-in from that.
Yeah, so they already had that relational connection. Whoops, I think my internet just went unstable here for a minute. Are you guys frozen with me still? Oops, you froze. Oh boy. Hey, okay, are we good now? Sorry. Okay, I had something.
I can see you.
We're good on this end.
Okay, all right. Anyway, I was going to say what I found in Hayward was that people, it took a while to earn the trust, but once it came, it was really deep. I mean, it went really, really deep. Ben, what about you? Whoops, we froze again. I am totally frozen. There we go. I don't know what just happened there.
Let's see. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So this has slow internet.
Oh man.
So at maybe 3 layers of challenge. Sometimes when my kids were younger, we would strategically get out of the rural area. We would go to Minneapolis, St. Paul. We'll go up to Duluth. We will find some stoplights and fast food. And then after about a day, we're like, why do people leave here on purpose? But when my kids were young, we did that because I hope this is not inappropriate to say, we're rather monoculture up here. And I didn't want my little kids to see a person of color and point. because they've never ever seen diversity before.
Mhm.
So that was a challenge, but it's easy. You just jump in your car and drive. The economics were a challenge. My suburban pastors, I think, my colleagues that pastor in the suburban, they get paid more. We lived a lot of years below the poverty line. Don't think there was, and it was not we could talk about, or like I felt we could talk about at a district level or because I thought God has always provided for us. I'm taking initiative in how do I make money on the side. So I've got some rental properties, and I did some coaching and just a little more strategic in instead of being a passive recipient of whatever the church would pay, say to think, you know, how do I take responsibility for my own economics without relying on the church?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I still want to have lots of time for ministry.
Yeah, I guess
so that was
good.
No, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to say that the richness comes in a different way, doesn't it? Like there's relational wealth, but then there's also stuff like they used to give me tomatoes and venison and fish and all kinds of stuff. They would actually bring things to me. That doesn't happen usually in a big city church.
Well, and maybe what I never would have valued when my kids were really, really young, but what I value, like, I know it's a great school system. I know the superintendent, I know the principal, I know the teachers, I know the bus drivers. And so it's a phenomenal place to raise kids. Mm. Like, they are getting a leg up and just blessed. They have with the senior saints. My kids are making out like bandits intellectually and relationally, and it's a great, I just can't imagine why anyone would want to raise their kids in a non-rural setting.
Oh, guys, this is awesome. For some reason, my internet's just acting weird. I think it's on my end. So I think I might pull it down to the end here. But man, this has been really great. You've given us a lot of good food for thought. Oh, you both have frozen up on me here again. Well, I'm gonna. I think we better just call it because it seems like it keeps coming in and out for some reason. I guess that's what it is. Rural internet.
Hey, Mark, real quick.
Yeah.
Can I put in a plug? We are looking for a rural church resident. The Great Lakes region is doing 5 residency centers.
Yes.
Be one of them. And we have come and be our resident as soon as we're able to travel freely in the United States again. We'd love to talk to somebody who might be interested. They'll also have all of the interactions with the other 4 residency centers in the Great Lakes region, which is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois. And there are 4 other churches, suburban and urban. And so they would have interaction with all of them as well. So that's my shameless plug.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah.
Rural,
if they could, I get, maybe what I'll do is I'll put up somewhere like a link to your church or something, your website, so they can find your contact information, and that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, our website is mylakeviewcommunitychurch.com.
Okay. Yep. I will pull that up and give it to them. Guys, I'm sorry this has been breaking up the way it has. That's sort of frustrating to me, but we got the message. We got the message loud and clear, and that's really good. God bless you for during this Holy Week. I hope that you have a way to minister to your people and the community. I know God is using you, and we'll be praying for you as you reach out and make a difference.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. God bless you. Thanks. Have a good one.